Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about Gnostic spirituality. In this video, God has guided me to speak about something which I very often, more and more often, I keep telling Him. Namely, there is it's an issue, a discussion between me and God, right? And this is the topic that I constantly point out to Him. Not very happy about it. Namely that I used to receive justice all the time, um, much easier before I started the spiritual fighting consciously, right? And it is true. On one hand, um, God is telling me that what I need to understand is that before I started doing the spiritual fighting consciously, um, God had freedom to make justice for me, right? But as soon as I started the spiritual fighting consciously, then you have darkness coming after you, first of all. Second, you confront and expose individuals involved in creating those situations, which I normally didn't do, even if I would suggest to some extent to them that I know what they're doing. I was not engaging or in a confrontation with them, right? And all of this is creating, it is disturbing the energy of manifesting justice, right? And it's creating barriers in God's way of creating justice for you. So this is the downside side of it, right? The fact that justice is coming much later when you do the spiritual fighting consciously, because of all the disturbance which comes in the way of God making justice for you. But it comes more fully. God keeps pointing this out to me, namely that you are delivering karma. So what happens is that if God makes justice for you without you fighting consciously, then the patterns stay put. The individuals are still possessed by the dark forces. They still body jump other individuals in your life, and they continue to recreate the pattern and to keep haunting you and recreating the same reality, which literally is a bondage or a generational curse, if you want to call it this way. But the bondage can be more than just a generational curse. While when you do the spiritual fighting consciously, you break and reverse those patterns, which means you will get justice later, but you will end those patterns in your life. This will not be recreated by another person. Yeah, at least because first of all, you break the pattern, you create barriers and boundaries. The darkness involved in those bondages created on you or against you already knows that you gained authority in spiritual realm in face of darkness, so they don't come as easily to attack you or whatever you want to achieve. And all of this is literally opening up the field to meet different people on a different level of light. Yeah. So basically, it's a it's somehow it's a little bit harder because you have to deliver karma, and obviously it doesn't depend fully only up to you, and it doesn't depend fully up to God. Once you establish that you start the spiritual fighting consciously, then it doesn't depend only on God to make justice to you, for the simple reason because other individuals are involved, you establish that you started the spiritual fighting consciously, and you establish that you want to end those patterns, to end that bondage. Therefore, you, like it or not, must take in consideration the free will of other individuals. You must go through the procedures of delivering karma, which it takes a lot of time, because you are supposed to give chances to those individuals before karma hits them. And you have to wait and see if they decide to do the right thing, to do redemption, or they decide to betray you again and come after you to do harm to you. So it takes more time. It's a process, and it doesn't depend on God. The process is the same. Even if God wants to reward you tomorrow and make justice to you tomorrow, it's not. It doesn't. It's God will choose not to, because this will interrupt the process. God is whispering to me now, because this is interrupting the process. So yeah, because if he would intervene and make justice to you, it will interrupt the process of you delivering karma, and God doesn't want to do that. And God showed me to give examples. He showed me two examples from my life, which are more or less neutral. I'm not going to get into complicated examples, but throughout my life, I always witnessed God making justice for me very easily. I already explained in previous videos, including the one on revenge and others, how I deal with situations when I'm done wrong, when I'm betrayed. I explained I don't do revenge. I do claim justice. And for me, I always claim the justice with a lot of faith, knowing that God will make justice. I don't need to make justice myself, because God will make justice for me. And to me, I would just ask justice from the divine realm, and I would just say, it is spoken. And that was it. I would just let it go, the situation in the hands of God, while I claim justice for it. Yeah. And then I will just, I didn't even use to wait to see when the justice come. I would just mind my own business. I would start another project to get busy with that. And at some point, I would just see the justice done. Yeah. I'll give you two examples how that was. I asked God that I don't want to give personal examples, but simple examples that don't pull me into a lot of discussions and explanations. And God showed me two examples from my professional life to give. One example is that I was dealing with a conventional arms control file sometime in 2005, 2007. In MFA, and at the time there was a crisis situation on the topic. Russia suspended the implementation of the treaty and requested that the adapted form of the treaty be enforced instead. In any case, I'm not going to enter into details about the topic. The fact is that there was a crisis situation, right? And I had a lot of fights with my superiors because they wouldn't understand what the decisions they were supposed to make. And they were trying to make wrong decisions. So I kept fighting them and telling them, no, this is not good. We cannot do this. This is not beneficial. We can do this. We can do this. Anyhow, so we had a lot of controversy. And at some point, I remember that I told one of my bosses that you're behaving like children in high school courtyard playing football. You're not mature adults, because he kept saying, this is just conventional armament. Nobody cares about conventional armament, Dana. This is just outdated. We don't need conventional armament. Now it's the era of technology. Do you see my point? Do you see why I was fighting them? And I said, you're just behaving like children in high school courtyard. Are you crazy? What do you mean you don't care about conventional armament? The next war is going to be fought by conventional armament, man. Do you understand? Are you aware of this? You people stay too much in front of computer playing games, and you think that everything is a game. This is not a game. Though if you read the history of the two world wars, you will see that they started from misunderstandings. And literally there's not a legitimate situation on a military standard, strategic standard, that would justify the war itself. It was just misunderstanding. Now that I know spirituality, I know actually also what was the reason why. It was because it was like a time like now, when a situational karmic cycle was ending, and karma was being delivered. But in any case, I had lots of controversy, right? And at some point, I wrote a report about the situation. We were on a delegation in Vienna, and I wrote a report from the delegation what happened at the negotiations in Vienna. And at the end, I told my boss, I'm sending the report to all embassies in NATO and EU countries. Okay? And he said, okay. And I did. I sent the report to these embassies, right? An ambassador from Portugal, the Romanian ambassador from Portugal, wrote back to the ministry and made a huge scandal, and why I sent the report to him, because this is not relevant to Portugal, and that he was very disturbed by the information received, and that it's not legitimate to send. And anyhow, he wrote a lot of stupid shit, you know. And of course, my boss got really, really angry, started yelling at me. Look what you have done. You created problems for me. And he started yelling at me like half an hour. I couldn't say a word, only because he kept talking, continuously yelling, you know. And I said, listen, I told you I'm sending the report to all NATO and EU countries. You said, yes, Portugal is there. It was not my personal choice to send it to Portugal, to him. It's not my problem that this is a crazy ambassador. It's not the first the first telegram that he writes like this. He's just a crazy bastard. He wrote like this about me previously. He's just crazy. That's all. It's not my fault. Anyhow, in the end, he calmed down when he saw that literally he had absolutely no legitimacy to yell at me, because we had both agreed that I'm sending the report to all NATO countries, all EU countries, our embassies in those countries. And they said it's just normal. CFE, Russia suspending CFE can be a topic in any of these capitals. As a diplomat, if you meet other diplomats from other embassies, they will bring this up. You need to be informed that this is a crisis situation and Russia suspended the implementation of the treaty. This is a warning sign that can lead to war. This is important. This was happening in 2007. And you can see that next year Russia invaded Georgia. So I was right to keep warning them. They wouldn't listen. But I kept warning them, telling them that Putin wouldn't suspend CFE for no reason. He has some plan, man. And nobody wanted to listen. Anyhow, I was really mad because even after he saw that I had no guilt in this, that he himself agreed to send the report to NATO and EU countries, our embassies there, he was still upset with me. Do you understand? So I got really upset about this situation. That ambassador had an obsession with me. That was not the first time when he was doing this, like making scandal over different things that I would do, because my name was there, that I made the report. And I claimed justice from God. And I said, this is enough. This bastard of ambassador is all the time doing this, following every time where to see where I am. And he keeps making reports about whatever I do. And it's literally, it was uncalled for, because as an ambassador or diplomat abroad, you say thank you for any information you receive. Nobody requested you to do anything. We just informed you about the fact that this situation exists, in case that other diplomats bring up the topic with you. So you will know. So you won't look stupid. Anyhow, but it was not the first time. He did it many times. And I got fed up at that point, and I said, I claim justice and I claim punishment on this man. It is spoken. So, like a month or two passed, and NATO and EU countries, NATO and EU decided that we must have consultations on the topic on CFE in order to prepare a common point of view to present to Russia about it. Yeah, where do you think the negotiations took place? Lisbon, Portugal. So literally, out of the blue, nobody would have believed this, because it was not an obvious choice that the consultations will take place in Portugal. Okay, it could have taken place anywhere. In Brussels would have been easier, of course, but in any other capital as well. But somehow it came about that the first consultations took place in Portugal, exactly in the same capital where the ambassador made a huge scandal and wrote a telegram back in the MFA complaining about me and about whoever signed my report, because why I sent this information to him. Well, if you don't need it, you put it in a file and shut the fuck up. Don't make a scandal out of it, but again, I say, this individual has done this many times to me on different other topics, seeking to see what I do and making all sorts of reports on me for no reason. I had no fault in none of these situations that he kept reporting about me. I had no fault. I did nothing wrong, but he kept making huge scandal out of it. And because of this, I called judgment and punishment on him at this point, because I was fed up with him. And then I told my boss, and I said, now what do you say about this? Now what if I wouldn't have sent the information back in Portugal about these consultations? Do you see now that it was legitimate? But this, I knew this in my heart and in my soul completely, 100%. I knew that this was God making justice to me, showing that, and actually my boss even told the ambassador when we arrived in Lisbon as delegation to the negotiations. My boss in the airport, actually, he told the ambassador as we arrived, he said, do you see, Mr. Ambassador, how there was no reason, no legitimate reason for you to make such a scandal for receiving information on this topic? Now it seems the capital that you live in is hosting for the first reunion for negotiations on this topic. So do you see my point? And I swear to you, my whole life was full of these situations in which God would make justice to me without me doing anything, just claiming justice, judgment, and punishment. Basically, just and again, completely detaching from the situation without following to take revenge. The problem when you take revenge is that you don't allow God to work because you intervene. Do you see even what I said earlier? When I start the conscious spiritual fighting, even me intervening in the energy of the situation, that alone stops God from doing justice to me immediately. Because God says, now you started the process, now you need to win the process, and only then I make justice for you. Because there's already a lot of other, and because at the end of the day, because you must learn all of this spiritual fighting. At the end of the day, this is the reality of it all. We all must learn this in order to ascend. Then this is our divine purpose. Yeah. So Yeah, so I had many, yeah, there was another example that God asked me to give. I don't know why, but he wanted me to give these two examples. I had all the conventional arms control treaties as my files. And we went on a consultation in Germany on CSBMs. It's a totally different arrangement on arms control, on conventional armament. And we had negotiations there. At some point, the head of the delegation of another country asked me to have a private discussion with me. He said, can we get a coffee together? I need a private discussion with you, not with both delegations present. And they said, of course. I thought he wants to negotiate to maybe support me because I wanted to ask something. I was asking something in the plenary for Romania to be appointed to as point of contact for something. And instead, when we got the coffee, he said, look, I have a sensitive issue to report, to talk to you about. One of the MOD men from your delegation, basically he hit it on one of the women in his delegation. Can you imagine this? So and he explained to me that this Romanian MOD guy was really rude and insistent and wouldn't accept no for an answer. And the guy said, you know, everybody has free will, and if the woman in my delegation would have been interested in him, this wouldn't be an issue for us to talk about. But what I want to tell you is that he crossed boundaries. The woman said no, and he wouldn't stop, and he wouldn't. He keeps harassing her. He doesn't stop. And I apologized, of course. I said, I am really sorry to hear this. I didn't know that this was happening. I apologized on his name. And I assure you that I will report it back home. And I appreciate that you're talking to me instead of making a scandal in the plenary. Anyhow, we went home, and I wrote my report, and I included this, of course, at the end of the report. I included this, that this and this head of delegation asked me to convey this and this and this situation. So I included this in my report. I gave the report to the director to sign it and to send it forward. And then all of a sudden, huge scandal starts, you know, because this idiot, it was a woman who was my director. She called the MOD guy. It wasn't really MOD. It was more. It was a separate institution under MOD, but it was with MOD people. And it was only assigned to only take care of the implementation of the treaties, nothing else. Just implementation, meaning they were doing flights of monitoring. How do you say this in English? Emplacement. Where the armament is located in another country, yeah? Okay. So she called this man and she told him, look, Dana wrote this in the report. I don't know what to do, if I should put it forward or not and send it above to higher hierarchy. And so he came to MFA and he started a scandal. Both of them yelling at me, saying that it's not acceptable that I do this, that this is a betrayal, that I side with a foreigner and put down Romanian. And they said, there's not a discussion about nationality here, man. It's a discussion about a man who has been harassing and aggressing verbally a woman in another delegation. And this is not acceptable. Your organization deals with the implementation of the treaty. All the time you are taking part of all these consultations with other delegations. You should have had by now men which are prepared and educated not to do this. Why you have people who do this? That's the question I ask as a woman. What was so urgent for him that he really needed what? He really needed an engagement, an encounter with that woman why he did this. And I said, okay, it's not my concern. I don't even care to meet this individual. I don't care to have this discussion with you. It is my report. That man told me the situation. I promised him I'll put it in my report. I will. And you cannot stop me. You cannot stop me. It's simple as this. Because I was the head of delegation and because I promised I will report it. You cannot imagine. The two of them went to the director general. Then all three of them started yelling at me that you cannot put this in the report. This report must go to the minister to be signed by the minister, and you cannot put this in the report for the minister to see this. And I said, I do not care, man. I promised I will put it in the report, and I will. And nobody can stop me. You can yell at me as long as you want. This is unacceptable that your man has done this. And I do not understand to what extent this has been happening, for how long, how many of your men are doing this, and this is not acceptable. And personally, I'm not even taking the time to judge the situation because it's not my place to judge it, but it is my place to inform about the situation, okay? To make it short, it became a huge scandal. Everybody started yelling at me and having a scandal with me to convince me not to put it in the report. I refused to take it out of the report. And I even said, if all of you gang up together to just yell at me and try to harass me and to bully me into taking this out of report, because they started insulting me at some point, it means that all of you are hiding something, which I don't know. Otherwise, why is this scandal? I don't understand. And they said, no matter what you do, I'm not taking that out of the report. There's nothing you can do. So I ask that everybody leaves me alone. Send the report to the minister to sign because I'm not taking that out. As simple as this. Just end it now by sending the document to the minister. Anyhow, the minister saw it, signed it. Again, lots of hate, lots of slander, and lots of still scandals afterwards. Okay, I did the same. I claim justice, judgment, and punishment. And I said, it is spoken. And that's it. I'm not consuming myself anymore with this. I took too much low vibration from these people for no reason, because I still believe it's my obligation to report it. They cannot do anything about it. Anyhow, months have passed by, months. I took care of my other files and I was busy with other things. And at some point, the director general called me, or state secretary, I think he was. He called me in his office. He said, please come to me. I need to talk to you about something. So I went, and he was like so pale in his face. And he told me he was in Brussels. He had consultations on different files, and that the individual, the head of the delegation that I mentioned a few months ago in my report, he made full information towards NATO and OSCE secretariats headquarters about the situation, and that it's a big scandal. So I was laughing when he told me. I started laughing, and he said, he was pale in his face, and he said, the issue is the following. Us, MFA, we are out of this because of you, because you put it in the report. So by now, because I asked him, what did you do? And he said, well, I was with MOD, and I told MOD, we are not to be blamed. We are out of the equation because we wrote it in the report. Now it's in your courtyard. You need to deal with it. So he said, because you put it in the report, now MFA is out of the scandal, because the MFA had only the obligation to report. It was an MOD individual, so it wasn't our individual in MFA. So for this reason, but do you see my point? The people who were yelling at me and were hateful at me, and I could see it in their face, they were ready to kill me. They were hating me so much, And I simply said, listen, you can yell until tomorrow. Nothing changes. I'm going to take a chair to sit down because I got tired since you yelled at me so long. But I'm not changing. Just to understand this. And they got, the situation got so bad that they got happy because I put that in the report. And they felt like they were saved, like the movie Saved by the Bell, saved by my report, because if we wouldn't have reported it, then MOD would have said, oh, but we would have been taking care of this if MFA would have told us. But MFA didn't tell us, so how would we know what happened? But because of my report, MFA was out of the scandal, and MOD was left to deal with the situation. Okay, now I'm done. These are the two situations that God wanted me to point out. Two situations in which God literally made justice to me. And to be honest, in each situation, it was very hard to believe that this is going to happen. Because you couldn't know that this individual would start making a full report about this situation to the headquarters of the organizations to deal with it. More likely, I would have believed that he would have asked for official consultations between the two countries, or just write a verbal note from his MFA to our MFA, or to our ambassador in his country. There are plenty of situations and options how to deal with it, you know. But he chose the worst one, like the most scandalous one, you know. And the only salvation they found in MFA was because I put it in the report. Exactly what they were mad and hateful at me about a few months ago, you know. And my life, professional and private, is full of these kind of examples, you know, in which basically something that was a topic of scandal and harassment and bullying and aggression and verbal aggression and insults and stuff, at the end of the day, God would turn it around in such a way that somebody hates me for this that basically everybody considers beneficial and the blessing whatever choice I made or whatever things I did, but those are the exact things for which they were yelling and hating me, you know. So this was all God's work. This is from the time when I didn't do spiritual fighting consciously. And again, I say, I was never taking revenge. I would just claim justice, judgment, and punishment, and just say it is spoken and detach from it and give it to God to solve it. So, and God would always make justice much, much easier and much, much faster than since I started the spiritual fighting consciously. I must say this. I very often say this to God, and I tell him I miss those times. I really miss those times when I was just creating different projects and I never wasted time with stupid shit they do because you were taking care of it. And now I'm gonna stop because it's 33 minutes and because I finished the topic. If you have any questions, just let me know, okay?